Update. Am I overreacting? My sister told me she was thinking about what it would feel to punch me in my pregnant belly. Now me and my husband are thinking about not letting her have a relationship with our child. Original post. My husband, 31 male, and I, 30 female, are currently 7 months pregnant. We decided to have our baby shower in our hometown so that our family and friends could attend. We arrived 5 days before the shower to spend some time with our families. We usually stay at my parents' house, which includes my parents and my sister, 28 female. Our families hadn't seen me in about 6 months, and this would be the first time they saw my pregnant belly. The first day we arrived, my parents were joyful and excited to spend time with us and finally see me pregnant. Later that night, my sister came home after being out with friends, and as soon as she saw me, she looked disgusted. She slowly walked toward me with a disgusted expression and said, "OMG, I can't believe you look like that." She said hello and then deadpan told me that on the drive home, she had been thinking about what it would feel like to punch me in the belly. There was no chuckle or indication that it was a joke. I was in shock and immediately felt unsafe, but I tried not to show my reaction for my parents' sake. I stood there for a few minutes while she poked my stomach, still looking disgusted. I felt incredibly uncomfortable and on guard. I eventually excused myself, saying I was going to bed. Over the next few days leading up to the shower, I avoided her and told my husband and parents what had happened. My parents had overheard a conversation but hadn't fully grasped what she said. They were all concerned, and my mom spoke to a friend who is a therapist. The therapist friend told my mom that what my sister said was extremely concerning and needed to be addressed. When my parents confronted her, my sister blamed her anxiety and depression, saying that my husband and I have everything, and now that we're having a baby, she feels like she has nothing to live for. She admitted that all she does is go to work and sleep. For some background, my sister has been in therapy and on medication for depression and anxiety for about 10 years. She has been extremely rude and self-centered her entire life. This isn't the first time she's mentioned having suicidal thoughts. During my college years, when I moved out of my parents' house, she blamed her depression on me, leaving her behind, and even threatened my parents with self-harming comments. Over the years, she has made my parents feel like I need to be responsible for her mental health and happiness. It come across to me and other family members as if she manipulates my parents into doing everything for her because of her depression. After the baby shower and some long conversations, my husband and I are trying to unpack everything. We are considering not allowing her to have any contact with our daughter once she's born. We don't think she would even want to make an effort to build a relationship with our child anyway. Are we overreacting? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not at all. Honestly, maybe underreacting, because I would have gone no to low contact with her given the history. She's grown, and not your responsibility. Never let her around your kid. Yeah, it's the history and context which makes it. This isn't an OMG, what a horrific intrusive thought. Aren't brains weird? It's a disturbing, at best attention-seeking, at worst very dangerous comment. Exactly. If it was an intrusive thought, she probably wouldn't have said it out loud. I have horrific intrusive thoughts, and I keep them to myself. You're not overreacting at all. Your sister is definitely blaming you for her own unhappy life, blaming her depression for her struggles, and manipulating your parents into not holding her accountable. It's a toxic situation, and even if she hadn't made those threatening comments about harming you and your unborn baby, I would still advise keeping your distance from her. Considering that she has made threatening statements toward you and your baby, it's absolutely essential to stay away from her and ensure she has no contact with your child. I'm glad your parents took the situation seriously, but they should also be encouraging her to move out and take responsibility for her life. Otherwise, it might be difficult for you to feel safe and at peace when staying at your parents' house. It's possible that she doesn't actually intend to harm you, but the fact that she feels comfortable making unsettling and threatening comments and then blames it on her depression is a red flag. Given that she's been in therapy and on medication for 10 years without significant improvement, it suggests she may not be genuinely committed to changing her life or letting go of her jealousy towards you. Keeping a safe distance is the best course of action for you and your family. Update. So I definitely think I underreacted and have been desensitized to her nasty comments, manipulative actions, rude behavior, and just overall attitude. To those who suggested I should have done more in the moment, you're probably right. However, it's easy to see that in hindsight, or when you're reading about it from behind a screen and imagining what you would have done. It's a completely different experience when it's actually happening to you in real time. For those pointing out that my parents are cuddling her, I agree. However, I think most parents would try to prevent their child from harming themselves if they were being told their child is suicidal. That said, I do agree that my parents need therapy to learn how to better handle her behavior. My sister is an adult, so they can't just reach out to her therapist. Her therapy sessions are virtual, and they don't have any contact information for the therapist. As for those wondering about her diagnosis, all I know is that she has anxiety and depression. My husband and I have speculated about possible narcissistic traits or a personality disorder like borderline, but we don't think she's been diagnosed with anything beyond anxiety and depression, and if she hasn't shared that information with us. Therapy is only as effective as what you put into it, and we have no way of knowing what she actually shares with her therapist. Some suggestions in the comments didn't seem to consider that she is an adult, and we can't force certain actions. To those suggesting a psychological evaluation, how would one go about arranging that without involving the police or forcing her into involuntary hospitalization? Is there a less dramatic way to request a psych evaluation, assuming she would even agree to it? Regarding the idea of my parents kicking her out, that's not going to happen. If she were to harm herself, they would feel completely responsible, as any parent likely would. So whether or not she's manipulating everyone, no one is willing to take that risk with their own child. I'd also like to mention that even before this incident, my husband and I had already decided that we would never allow her to watch our child or be responsible for any aspect of their care. We both agreed that she probably wouldn't want to, and we wouldn't feel comfortable with it. We also decided not to stay at my parents' house when we visit after the baby is born, as it would be uncomfortable due to the lack of space. For those worried about my safety, the baby shower is now over and we are safely back home, far away from her. There's no chance of her being around me right now. Thank you to everyone who sent well wishes. Your thoughts are appreciated. Well, you won't ever be able to leave your child alone with the grandparents then, as they would most definitely allow her time probably unsupervised with a child. They're so naive they wouldn't think of it, and your child would be in danger. I'd go low contact on them until the child is about 15. I don't trust any of them. Set another boundary. Tell your parents you won't be bringing the baby to their home when she is there. They can come visit you at the hotel or at your home. Your sister is toxic and a potential danger. She doesn't deserve to be around you guys, and you don't deserve her abuse. Your parents have chosen to cuddle her. That's their life, not yours. You don't need to expose your child to their abusive aunt, who most certainly will be abusive around and most likely to the baby at some point. The baby doesn't need to see their parents being mistreated. Don't allow that. Stay away from her. When I was pregnant, I was young and living at home. My brother grabbed me by the throat and threatened to punch me in my belly. I moved in with my ex the next day and went no contact. I think I saw him twice after that. At a wedding and at Christmas, I sucked it up. My daughter was like 10 by then. He died about 15 years ago of a condition, so I have no regrets. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my brother-in-law pay for a vacation after he's repeatedly called me a gold digger? I, 30 female, have been married to my husband, 32 male, for 5 years. We both work hard and are financially comfortable. While my husband does earn more than I do, we've always considered it our money. We're a team and share responsibilities equally. The problem is my brother-in-law, 34 male. For years, he has made jokes about me being a gold digger because my husband earns more. He does this in front of others, and even though I usually just laughed it off to avoid causing a scene, it really bothers me. I've always worked, contributed to our household, and it's frustrating to have my efforts dismissed as if I'm just living off my husband. Recently, my brother-in-law and his wife asked us to help cover their portion of a family vacation because they couldn't afford it. My husband and I discussed it, and while we could help, I didn't feel comfortable doing so after all the times he's disrespected me. When I refused, my brother-in-law tried to brush it off, saying I was overreacting and that his comments were just harmless jokes. Now he's upset, and my in-laws are saying I'm making a big deal out of nothing, and that family helps family. My husband supports my decision, but I can't help second-guessing myself. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help because of how my brother-in-law has been treating me? Not the a-hole. It blows my mind how often people get called out on their BS and fail to properly apologize. Brother-in-law could very easily have said something like, "I'm sorry, you are rightly calling me out on this item as I see how my asking for money after teasing you about being a gold digger comes off very badly. I thought I was joking, but it is clear now that my comments were hurtful and were not actually funny. I am sorry for that and won't make those comments in the future." Perhaps if he had done that, you might have reconsidered. But instead, he told you the jokes were harmless. Likely said you were overreacting, and then got your in-laws involved. Poor choice. I think some people fail to develop at a certain age, and their brain just thinks like a child's one. Interesting that he is calling them harmless jokes, because they seem to have harmed his ability to go on this family trip. Not a-hole. I wouldn't give them a dime, much less for a non-essential vacation. Have a sit down with your husband. He needs to be defending you when his brother denigrates you at family events. My husband is very protective when it comes to me, and is definitely not shy when it comes at defending me in front of my family. I know he clearly doesn't believe the stupid jokes his brother is telling, but it just hurts to hear them. You can help him and destroy him with similar jokes that he can't even pay for his wife. I thought about doing that, haha. But then a thought kicked in that I am not like him, nor do I want to be like him, so that's why I didn't do it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister wear white to my wedding and kicking her out when she showed up in it? I, 27 female, got married 2 weeks ago, and what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life was disrupted by my sister, 31 female. We've never been close, and she has always tried to one-up me at family events. I was hoping she'd behave at my wedding, but she decided to test me in the worst way. Months ago, I sent out the dress code and made it very clear. No one was allowed to wear white, except for me. It was non-negotiable. When I told my sister about this, she gave me attitude, saying I was being insecure and that no one cares about tradition anymore. I told her she didn't have to agree with me, but she needed to respect my wishes. On the morning of the wedding, she showed up in a floor-length, lace white dress that looked like a bridal gown. My heart sank, and I asked her what she was thinking. She brushed it off, saying, "It's not that white, and besides, no one will care." I told her that if she didn't change, she wouldn't be allowed to attend. She threw a fit, accusing me of ruining her day and stormed off, calling me a bridezilla. Some family members suggested I let it slide because she's just like that, but I had enough. I informed the staff not to let her back in unless she changed. She never returned, and now she's telling everyone that I've ruined our relationship for good. My parents are upset, saying I should have ignored it because it's only a dress. But I feel like she intentionally tried to sabotage my special day. My husband supports my decision, but some family members are still angry. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister disrespected your clear dress instructions and showed up in a white gown almost identical to a wedding dress. She was trying to steal the spotlight at your wedding. You were right to uphold your boundaries and not let her ruin your day. Ignore the family members who say you should have just let it slide. This was your special day, and she didn't care. She had every chance to wear literally anything else, but she chose that dress on purpose. Letting it slide would have just given her permission to pull stunts like this at every major event. Some people need to learn the hard way that actions have consequences. Is your sister the golden child? Just because no one else in the family holds her behavior to account and have thus enabled her behavior doesn't mean that you have to. Wearing white to a wedding is incredibly disrespectful. I'd consider going low contact with your sister and all her flying monkeys and enjoy your new married life. Congrats, by the way. Your sister sounds like a total drama queen. If she can't respect a simple dress code, then she doesn't deserve to be at your wedding. You did the right thing by kicking her out. It's your day, and you get to decide the rules. I refuse to let her drama overshadow one of the happiest moments of my life. I didn't ask for much, just a little consideration. If she can't handle that, then she can miss out. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to leave my husband after finding out he's secretly dating our babysitter and got her fired? I, 30 female, have been married to my husband, 33 male, for 6 years, and we have a 2-year-old daughter. For almost a year, we had a babysitter, Anna, 22 female, whom we hired through an agency. Anna was truly great with our daughter, always full of energy, patient, and very responsible. She blended so well with our family that it almost felt like she was a part of it. My daughter loves her. However, a few weeks ago, I started noticing something unusual between Anna and my husband. They were texting each other frequently, and it wasn't just about our daughter or her schedule. They were exchanging jokes and chatting about random things. When I asked my husband about it, he dismissed it as small talk. I felt a bit silly for even bringing it up, so I let it go. Last week, I came home from work earlier than expected. When I walked in, I saw my husband and Anna sitting very close together on a couch, whispering. They both jumped up and acted awkwardly the moment they saw me. I was stunned and didn't know how to react. Later that night, I confronted my husband. And after a lot of back and forth, he finally admitted that he had been seeing Anna for the past couple of weeks. He insists that nothing physical happened. But regardless, I see this as a significant betrayal. Whether or not it was physical, he crossed a major line. To make matters worse, when I decided to report Anna to the agency for unprofessional behavior, I found out that my husband had already called them earlier that day. He had made up a false story about her being unreliable and had her fired from the agency. He claims that he did this to protect us because the situation was getting complicated. But I believe he was just trying to cover his tracks. Now I'm considering ending our marriage. I feel deeply betrayed by both my husband and Anna, 2 people I trusted around my daughter. However, my husband insists that I am overreacting and says I would be throwing away our family if I left him over what he calls a misunderstanding. I'm at a loss for what to do. Am I wrong for wanting to leave him after this? Is the situation really as bad as it seems, or am I overreacting? Not the a-hole. Massive betrayal on his side. He is an a-hole. I know he is the a-hole. I can't believe he dated our babysitter. Not a-hole. You did report the real reason though, right? Yes, I did. Good. They deserve to know what really happened. You did the right thing. Update. I heard my in-laws talking about getting my wife back together with her ex. Original post. I, 35 male, have been with Abby, 35 female, for 13 years now. Every day that goes by, I love her more and more, and we're even expecting our first baby. For the holidays, we always stay 2 to 3 months visiting my wife's family. But the problem is that, this year, all the family was really excited saying that Alan is coming. In all the years in the family, I never heard of an Alan, and my wife didn't even care about it. So I thought it was just a cousin. But the famous Alan was my wife's ex and first love. The man lives in Europe, but Abby's family still have contact with him and even invited the man to the house now that he's in the country. I try to get along with Alan, but the man just ignores me and takes every chance to get closer with my wife, making jokes or talking about the past. I didn't took it personal because I don't want to look jealous. But lately, he has been coming every day to visit the family, and Abby's family started comparing his accomplishments to mine. They're all big fans of Alan, and I honestly feel jealous of that because they're treating him better than me. 2 days ago, I heard my mother-in-law and brother-in-law talking about how nice it would have been for Abby to stay with Alan because he's a smart man. What hurt me the most was hearing my brother-in-law say that he can try to get Alan and Abby back together, and my mother-in-law just laughed, saying that it would be good to go on a trip to Europe every year and not to the countryside with the peasant. Talking about me because I live in a farm with my wife, just because she always dreamed to live in that kind of quiet environment. In fact, now that I'm no longer blindfolded, I'm starting to notice how my brother-in-law makes too many comments to my wife about how great Alan is. Although Abby never says kind things about Alan, and I think she even treats him like he's a child. I don't feel comfortable being here knowing that they see me as a dumb peasant, and it's horrible to see how they try to include Alan in the family when they still treat me like I'm just a casual boyfriend of Abby's. But my wife only sees her family these months of the year, and I don't want to ruin that or put that kind of stress on her since she is pregnant. I feel like I'm in some kind of rom-com, but I'm in the role of the bad husband the protagonist leaves for the handsome CEO. Haha. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Talk to your wife. You've been together 13 years. This is a conversation you should be able to have with her. I find it odd that she didn't mention who this person was, but if she were hiding something, she wouldn't have had the two of you in the same place at the same time. What her family's doing to both of you is not okay. They are disrespecting both of you. It's been 13 years. They're delusional if they think they can hook him up with her. Clearly, she's not interested, but she needs to shut this behavior down immediately. Shame on them. Going forward, there is no reason you should be spending 2 to 3 months with her family ever. You have your own lives and a baby on the way. Actually, I had mentioned to Abby that she had never told me about that ex, and she said that Alan was never someone relevant in her life, and she considers me her first love, so I'm totally sure she doesn't even feel anything for him. Abby always responds coldly to the weird comments her family makes, but she is normally resting in the bedroom, and they have never said anything as harsh as what I heard from my brother-in-law and mother-in-law. Sounds like you've got an amazing life. I'm sorry her family are such a-holes to you. I think going forward, you guys should not stay with her family for as long as you do. And next time you visit, stay in a hotel. Enjoy your time there. Going forward, tell her the things they say or do and let her handle it. They are her family. Let them be her problem. And what does your wife say? My wife just ignores Alan. And when my brother-in-law says those things, Abby just says, if you like Alan that much, then go sleep with him. And the conversation ends. When I found out it's her ex, she just said, yes. I dated him for 2 months when I finished high school and made a disgusted face. I couldn't ask more because she has been really tired with the pregnancy and don't want to stress her more. I'm sorry, they're this pressed for a guy she dated for 2 months over a decade ago? Opie, was Alan a family friend or something? It just feels weird that they like him this much. Having known you for 13 years, have they always disliked you? From what I heard, he lived in the same neighborhood but they were never close until Abby started dating him. When he moved to Europe, the family still had contact with him through Facebook and WhatsApp, and even some members of the family stays in his house when they went to Europe. So it seems the aunts and cousins are really close with him. They always made jokes about our farm life, and I know my mother-in-law hates that Abby has gone to live so far away from them. She always hides her dislike for me, although I can feel the cold treatment she always gives me. My brother-in-laws always made it obvious that they didn't like me for taking their old sister away. The rest of the family treats me well or just normal, but Alan is really charismatic. Plus, they're all really extroverted people, and I'm more on the quiet side, so I think it's easier for them to like him more. They just like the idea of using him for free trips to Europe. They're delusional. And they're willing to break up their daughter's 13-year relationship when she has a kid on the way. Truly nonsensical, and also just morally repugnant. Could they be any more trashy? Now for the update. So I found out my wife was cheating on me with Alan. Nah, just kidding. Thanks for all the advice I received. Many of them were very helpful, and some were very weird ideas like record conversations with my mother-in-law or have my wife choose between her family or me. Maybe it's something cultural, but I would never give an ultimatum like that, because to me, it's a really low blow to do. Here, family's very important. After making the post and reading the comments, I decided to talk with Abby about what I heard. We were in our room, and I talked about what her mother and brother said as calmly as possible. But the moment I finished telling everything, Abby just kissed my forehead and ran with her pregnant belly out of the bedroom to literally yell at everyone in the living room. No one spoke beside an aunt, who tried to justify themselves by saying that they were just making jokes, to which I replied that they were uncomfortable and disgusting jokes. At some point, Abby told her mother something like, "Whether you like it or not, I'm married to this man. I'm going to have this baby with him and many more, so shut up and bear with it." Then my wife yelled at her brothers and went with them to talk in private. My brother-in-laws talked with me and admitted that they were only doing that because they believed I was forcing Abby to marry and live in a farm far away from the family, when it was actually Abby's idea to get married in private and live at a farm. So all these years it has just been a misunderstanding. The 3 brothers apologized to me and were really embarrassed about their behavior, saying they only invited Alan to mess with me. After that, most of the family members apologized to us. Abby told everyone that she doesn't want to see Alan in the house anymore while we're here. She's not going to forbid them from talking with him, but doesn't want to see him near her because he's uncomfortable. Mother-in-law tried to complain, but Abby just said, "Shut up, Mom," and left the living room with me. In the bedroom, Abby confessed to me that she also felt uncomfortable, but since Alan is a friend of the family, she preferred not to say anything other than throw passive-aggressive comments at him. For example, After New Year's, we were all eating and Ellen stroked her belly without asking. To which my wife said, "Do it again and I'll bite you." So we never did that again. Abby even said that at some point, she actually talked with Ellen and told him that she dislikes being touched by other people. But Ellen said she was overreacting and left her talking alone. I feel really stupid for not noticing how uncomfortable my wife also was feeling, because after that is when she stayed most of the times in the bedroom when Ellen was in the house, with the excuse she was tired because of the pregnancy. Just out of curiosity, I asked her why she broke up with Ellen if he's such a cool man, because I'll admit, he's really charismatic. And Abby told me that he always treated her as if he knew everything, and explained things that she already knew every time they talked. Abby never felt the need of talking about that relationship because it wasn't relevant, and she sees me as her first love, not Ellen. I apologized to Abby for not noticing how uncomfortable she was, and only looking at my own feelings without talking about it as a couple. And Abby also apologized for the same. We promised to communicate this kind of thing to each other no matter what. Yesterday, we went on a date together, and when we came back, my mother-in-law looked very unfriendly, but she apologized to my wife, to which Abby said she should apologize to me. So mother-in-law and I talked for a while alone, and although I'm still upset, we promised to at least be civil with each other for Abby and the baby. We decided next time we will stay in one of the hotel rooms while we were here, even if it's a 3-hour drive. It would be better for us to be comfortable, and 3 months in my in-laws' house was always really tiring. So it's something we should have done earlier. For now, Alan is no longer in the picture because yesterday, I got his number to send a message, clarifying why he can't come back and why I don't want him near my wife. The man just blocked me without answering. I guess he understood, but if he didn't, I don't have any problem in talking about it face to face. Edit? I showed Abby the Reddit post, and she didn't have any problem with me asking for advice. I'm even posting this now with her hugging my arm. I love this woman a lot. Edit 2. Alan came back to the country because he divorced his wife, and is flirting with any woman to come his way, so it seems he thought it was a great idea to try and flirt with my pregnant wife. Dude, I literally saw the first paragraph and my heart dropped. Seems to me that you have an amazing wife and will likely have an amazing life. Good luck and don't mess it up. Also, congrats on becoming a parent. Thanks for the good wishes. To all people who's commenting. I'm sure I will never do anything to mess up what I have now with my little family. I have no idea what your wife looks like, but a mental image of a pregnant lady kissing her husband's forehead and running out of your room to give her family a verbal lashing is definitely one of the most wholesome things I've ever read. Her family sucks. Tell me about it. Not only deciding they knew what Abby wanted without ever talking to Abby, and actually asking her if she was happy, but then going behind her back to try and break up her happy marriage and set her up with someone she already ended a relationship with. I'm betting not once did they ever stop and wonder why Abby and Alan never worked out in the first place, or why Abby chose to not break up with Opie. Yay for your wife. I appreciate her so much for listening to you, supporting you, and not delaying a single moment and setting her family straight. She sounds amazing, as does your marriage and connection, and I'm so happy this situation seems to have only made you stronger as a couple, and maybe as individuals too. And one more thing, I'm very vocal about one having autonomy and full control over who touches them and when. Included in this is pregnant women, and a tendency for people to help themselves to a tummy touch without permission from the mama. It enrages me that people feel entitled to the body of another person in any way like that. Reading that Alan touched Abby's belly made my blood boil. But I absolutely love her response that she will bite him if he does it again. She's feisty, and that will continue to serve her well in her life and the life of her child. Same, Abby also hates when people touches her belly without asking. Even old ladies we don't know does that, and it's really uncomfortable for her. Abby always asks people not to do that, but most of them get offended by that. There are many people who do not respect the personal space of pregnant women, with the excuse of caressing the baby. It's really annoying. Last story. My elders kept a huge secret my whole life and I accidentally discovered the truth. My 39 female and my sister 42 female became suspicious a few years ago that our dad, 67 male, isn't our 38 male younger brother's bio dad. Our suspicion started 4 years ago when our parents got divorced. My mom, 62 female, acted completely insane, trying to get us and our kids to basically abandon our dad and chose to only have a relationship with her. Our dad said a few cryptic things out of frustration that made it clear he had big secrets, and that it felt stuck watching her try to isolate us and not being able to tell us the truth about who she really is as a person. Then a childhood friend of our mom had her first great-grandbaby, and we ended up seeing not just her, but also her 2 adult children, 56 female and 54 male, for the first time since becoming suspicious. As soon as we saw the son David, we knew he is our brother's dad. We hadn't seen him in some years, but my brother, who wasn't there, wears a near carbon copy of his face. That was almost 2 years ago. We knew, but we didn't know. Until yesterday, when I expressed sadness about my relationship with my mom, who has always been a destructive force in our lives. I told my dad about how much it hurts that our mom has always only really been interested in having a good relationship with our brother, but not my sister and I, who are no/low contact with our mom now. He said there was a reason for that he was her son. I said, but she's our mom too. And he said she had her reasons and that she wished he could tell us everything, but that it was the wrong thing to do. So, I told him that my sister and I already knew the truth, that he isn't our brother's dad, and farther, that we know who is. Through this conversation, I learned that one of my aunts, David, his sister and his mom, a woman we referred to as our aunt our entire lives, all know the truth. And that my mother and David had carried on an affair for 3 years when we were little. Now everything is so confusing. We want to tell our brother the truth, but he already has a rocky relationship with our dad, in part due to my mom's lifetime alienation, and our mom is his best friend. We don't want to tell him that all these people lied to him his whole life, or that his bio dad has known about him and watched him grow up, but opted out of being his dad. We don't want to ruin the relationships our brother has, but they are built on lies. Now my brother is about to undergo an exploratory surgery based on a medical history that isn't his. And I'm left wondering if it's worse to have unnecessary surgery or to learn that your life and relationships are built on lies. To add even more medical drama, my brother also has a couple of kids with a rare genetic condition that hasn't come up before in either our background or his wife's. Only boys get it, and the new baby is also a boy. We won't know if he also has it for a few years, since we can't tell his mom to get him tested without revealing why. Luckily, there is no early interventions, so her finding out later versus now won't change her child's outcome. But still, if he has it too, that might reveal the secret on his own. There are so many more twists and turns to get us to where we are now, but this is the Cliff's Notes. Now for the comments. Sorry to tell you this, but your mom is a predator. Oh, I know. I just didn't know that this was one of the ways in which that's true. It does explain how she has maintained a relationship with a family member who molested both me and my sister. Ew, your mom had an affair with her friend's son? That's so crazy. 24-year-old dating a 16-year-old and a 16-year-old's mom is okay with it and remained friends? I kept hoping that David's dad was the one that got her preggo, not the 16-year-old. Yuck. That is so wrong on so many levels. Honestly, I'd blow it up. DNA kids are outright telling him, your mom doesn't treat you or your sister right. She cheated and took advantage of a kid that technically couldn't give consent at that age. Your brother deserves to know now. He needs to know before his surgery and all the rest. You can be gentle when you tell him, but to hide it further is not right. Mom cheated with a 16-year-old who got her pregnant. Not a good look. I'm not ready to even try to come to terms with that part. My 20 years of therapy just was basically obliterated by a whole new way to view pre-existing childhood trauma. I don't blame you for that at all. This is a whole lot to unpack. But I totally agree with the other poster that said once, keeping a secret like this could affect the outcome in a medical situation. Whether concerning your brother or his son, all bets are off. The surgeon needs to know his accurate medical history, and your brother and his wife need to know the truth about why this genetic condition has a possibility of affecting their son, so they can get an accurate paternal family history for any genetic counseling they may decide to do. Yes, this is going to rock his world, and I get that your mom is his best friend, but that relationship is built on lie after lie after lie, and he deserves to know the truth. Not only for all the reasons above, but so he can make decisions based on all the facts about his relationship with your mother, because she knows that he needs an accurate paternal medical history, and still chose to say nothing. That's next level messed up, and the stakes are too high to stay quiet. First story is titled, Updated. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to share a room with stepbrother anymore after he came out? Original story. My dad got married over a year ago. His wife moved in with her son, who's same age as me, 16. It's a 2-bedroom house, so Steven moved into my room too. It didn't bother me before because I was mostly with my mom, and my dad only on weekends. My mom got called out of state for work, and she's not gonna be back for months, so I'm now with him full-time. I've met Steven a few times, but now being here all the time, I notice weird stuff. There's bathroom in my room, and he literally gets out naked every single time, even when I was already in the room before he went in. I always tell him what the heck, and he says sorry but always does it. Now, I just leave the room when he showers. When I play video games, he'll come sit right next to me, and we're pressed right against each other.
There's more space on the couch, so it bothers me that he does that. Other times, he'll be talking to me and put his right hand on my lap, but like not move it. I don't know. It's weird for me because I don't like being touched, but he's always super touchy with me, no matter how many times I tell him I hate it. What's made it real uncomfortable is when I change or something in the room. He straight up watches me and creeps me out. So now I go do that in the bathroom too. It's always weird when he's around, and I just don't like it. And he always wants to be around me. Then he came out 2 months ago, and now some stuff makes sense. It's more awkward because I feel like he's into me or something. Still stares if he comes in when I'm changing my clothes but acts like he wasn't. Gets naked around me when he's changing. So I told my dad I don't want to share my room with him anymore and said why. My dad doesn't think it's wrong the way he is, but let me turn the basement downstairs into my own room when I ask him. It was a TV room we never used, and it had lots of space for my bed and all my other stuff. Steven's mad now that I don't want to share a room with him. He says I'm being homophobic because what a coincidence I'm only doing it now after he came out. His mom is mad too and thinks I'm overreacting because boys change in locker rooms together all the time, so that shouldn't make me uncomfortable. She also says that I'm being weird only because he's gay. But I don't know, I was always uncomfortable in locker rooms too. And plus, he straight up walks around naked in front of me, which I don't like. It's tense at home with them both saying I'm being homophobic. And Steven says I'm hurting his feelings, not wanting to share that space anymore. I didn't like any of the stuff he was doing even before he came out. But now I just swear I was fed up with it. Knowing that he's gay just made me start to wonder if it was all being done on purpose. So, I don't know. Am I being an a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not an a-hole, and shouldn't have anything to do with him being gay. You've set your boundaries, and he keeps knowingly and willingly crossing them. If your parents won't do anything about it, then start using the phrase actual harassment, because that is literally what it is. Get a teacher or counselor involved too. You aren't being homophobic at all. What he's doing is straight up harassment, and that touching you without your consent is a violation. Sit the whole family down and explain in great detail what he's been doing and then call it what it is: harassment and assault. Tell them you were making excuses for him before he came out, but now that he's out, it's become clear what he's doing, and it's completely unacceptable. Tell them that you've moved out of the room and that's that. You don't want to hear any more crap about it. If they can't accept it, and if he continues doing the same thing to you, you will escalate by calling your mother and telling the school counselor. It sounds like going nuclear, but don't pussyfoot around these violations. You don't want it to get normalized in your home. Not at a-hole. Piggybacking on this, I would bring up anything about before or after the kid came out. It would still be harassment even if the stepbrother wasn't gay. It's weird and creepy, gay or straight. Not at a-hole. Not wanting to be touched against your will, not wanting to see someone naked, not wanting to be watched while you're dressed, equals perfectly reasonable, universal desires, not homophobia. If you were a girl, he'd be seen as a creep 100%. His behavior is creepy, and you've tolerated it way longer than you should have had to. Not at a-hole. You were uncomfortable with his behavior. It is better to allow you to have your own space than to try and make this a homophobia issue. Most everyone would be weirded out by someone just being openly nude in front of them, regardless. The incompatibility in comfort levels is a reason in and of itself. True, and it sucks the way the mom responded about locker rooms. It's a completely different situation. Even if he wasn't gay, it's still straight up harassment to touch people's laps and expose yourself to them without consent. And now for the update. Okay, I know it hasn't been that long, but crap kinda hit the fan this week. So thanks everyone for supporting me through this, because I felt like I was losing it, with everyone at home making me feel like crap. It helped a lot that people understood what I was dealing with and didn't make me feel bad for feeling the way I do. Some comments were saying I needed to tell my mom about what was going on since she didn't know, even though I felt bad about it. So, a day after I posted, I told her. First about the way Steven was acting with me, and then how they were all giving me crap about being phobic since I decided to move out of my room after he came out. She was pissed the hell off. She told me to put my dad on, and I could hear her yelling at him from the phone when I gave it to him. My dad wasn't happy, and they were arguing for like a half hour. But he said he was sorry for not really doing much for me about Steven, and And my mom says she doesn't want me there because of Steven. And also, she doesn't like that I'm sleeping in the basement and doesn't know if it's even safe for me down there since it's an old basement. My mom told me she wants me over there with her, but only if I want to. School is online, and I don't see any of my friends anyway, so it wouldn't be a big deal if I stayed with her. I talked to my dad, and then to my mom. He was mad that I wanted to go with her, but he didn't tell me anything else. She drove all the way back here and picked me up on Thursday. Been here at the hotel she's staying at since Friday. It's more chill, to be honest. I'm here alone most of the time since my mom has to work all day, so I like the privacy. I've talked to my dad, and he says they're gonna talk to Steven. I don't know how that's gonna go when my stepmom was still all defensive about him when I left. We'll see, I guess. I don't know for how long we'll be here. I think another 2 to 3 months, but at least I'm not there at my dad's right now with all those uncomfortable vibes. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Since everyone was really helpful about what I should do and how I don't need to be dealing with that crap. I'm so happy your mom was totally on your side. She needs a huge hug for being super mom for her son. I'm glad you told your mom and was able to leave because your first post made my stomach turn. Because you were being violated in your own home. This update is amazing and you have a fantastic mother. Talk to your dad and try to tell him you still love him, but him not defending you is what made you want to leave. That was a good mama bear right there. Wow, that Steven guy sure is weird. I wouldn't blame you for wanting to get away from him, and I'm gay myself. Yeah, from reading both posts, being gay has nothing to do with it really. People should just respect boundaries. Good update. Glad to hear you got away from that situation. I don't know what country you're in, but I would guess that 16 is old enough to legally stay at your mom's if you want to. Personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable going back into that mess for a long time, and that's assuming your dad has an epiphany and realizes how severely he has failed as a father. Keep in mind that if you do ever want to see your dad, you can make plans to go out and do things with him without actually being at his house, and without Steven being around. Well, post-COVID anyway. It wasn't a custody thing. It's because my mom had to work out of the state for a few months, and so I stayed with my dad full-time until she got back. My parents are talking about what to do when we get back though, because she doesn't want me around Steven at all, so I guess see how that goes. Don't want to go back to that house either. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sisters her feelings don't matter more than the kids? So hear me out. My 40 female, sister 32 female, is a stepmom. She married her husband 6 years ago. They met 2 months after her husband's first wife died and had a very quick relationship, 14 months from meeting to marriage. He had 3 kids with his first wife, 13 male, 12 male, and 9 female. My sister has always wanted to be a mother, but is unable to get pregnant, and when she met her husband, she told everyone who could listen that this was God's way of making her a mother, and to quote her, to kids who really need one. So she stepped in and expected them to start calling her mom within a year. And when it didn't happen, she was disappointed. She wanted to adopt them, and they said no. She and her husband put them into therapy, and she broke down 2.5 years into their marriage when the boys said she would never be their mom. When her stepdaughter eventually told her she didn't want to call her mommy ever, she started complaining all the time to her mom and our dad about it. About how she didn't know what to do, and she would ask her mom, my stepmother through the same circumstances, for advice. And she would try what her mom suggested, but it was never working. Last year, during lockdown, the kids asked to go live with their grandparents because they said they hated being stuck with my sister all day, and they wanted to be with family. They got more therapy. My sister decided to try and proceed with adopting them without their consent because, in her mind, maybe they would accept her more if she showed them how far she would go for them. It did not work. The adoption did not happen, and the kids all hate her. Then she came to me and started complaining and asking why I never wanted to help or give her advice. I told her I did not think she would like my advice. She said she wanted me to give it, that I know what it's like. She asked how did her mom win me over and earn the place of my second mom. I told her she hadn't, that she had wanted it, sure, but she wasn't my mom anymore, that she, sister, was the kid's mom. She said that wasn't fair. And I told her the only time a step-parent can truly win the title is when they put the kids first and accept their boundaries. She protested about her feelings, and I told her that her feelings don't matter more than the kids. They have to be put first, and And if their need is for her to just be stepmom, then she should be focusing on being the best stepmom she can be and less in following her dream to motherhood. She went nuts, told me I was insensitive and a judgmental witch, and that I was cruel to her and her mom, and I'm dead wrong. I have to ask myself if I handled it poorly, which is why I'm here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister needed a wake-up call, and hopefully what you told her do that. She's doing some serious boundary crossing. And you're right, her feelings don't matter in this. How does she not see that the harder you push, the further they pull back? Also, where is the dad in all this? Why hasn't he stepped in and told her to stop? He supports her in everything she has been doing. He wants the kids to consider her their mom too. Those kids are going to go low/no contact the second they're old enough. They're being smothered, having their feelings invalidated, and have been told through action they're expected to forget their dead mother ever existed and accept this overbearing and needy person in her place. She'll never be accepted as a parent figure because she is loving these kids unconditionally, and there's probably too much damage already done by trying to force things for that to ever happen. She sees these kids as means to an end. It's incredibly selfish. Uppy did nothing wrong. In fact, they did everything right. Don't ask a question and insist on an answer when you've been warned you won't like what someone has to say. Not Dayhall. Not Dayhall. She hoped for you to agree with her ways of pushing her stepchildren's clear boundaries. By forcing the adoption, your sister might have burned every bridge for her to be a parent figure someday. And it's not the stepchildren's duty to fulfill her wishes of being a mother. This is something she never understood, and I in part blame her parents for that. I think it goes back to my relationship with her mom and her lack of understanding about how different her mom and I see the relationship between us, as well as what a stepchild owes a step-parent, for want a better way to put it. Like, yes, they are owed the same respect and courtesy of any adult, but they seem to feel like love is owed too. I think the children will have a hard time respecting both the father and your sister. Imagine your mom dying and 2 months later, your dad starts dating again. And on top of that, your sister trying to force herself into the position of the mother. I bet the children didn't have a real opportunity to grieve for their mother and resent your sister even more for her behavior. That would be my guess. The boys probably even resent her more again because they tried to get to their sister because she was much younger and wouldn't have any of her own memories of their mom. So to them, it would look even more like my sister was swooping in to raise the mom they loved so much. It sucks because I know how that can feel. And I know what it's like to have it assumed you will feel a certain way because you don't remember the deceased parent. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for an expensive dress which was ruined at my wedding? My father-in-law is a dirtbag who ended his 23-year marriage with a text and moved in with my mother-in-law's best friend since college while mother-in-law was on a trip. I'm going to call the friend Shauna, and her and father-in-law are married now. Very unhappily, and it is a huge crap show. Stealing father-in-law wasn't enough, and Shauna went on a smear campaign and told everyone stuff mother-in-law had told her in confidence. Mother-in-law hates them for valid reasons, but I have tried to tell her the best revenge is living well. She just got engaged to someone who treats her like a princess and has real money. Father-in-law has become a gambling addict, and him and Shanna are screwed, but there is still a lot of anger. I probably messed up by sitting them together at the wedding, but mother-in-law's fiancé accidentally knocked his entire glass of wine onto Shanna's lap. I'm pretty sure he did it on purpose, and I do think it was needlessly immature, but not my problem. The dress cost $1,500, and the stain will not come out. Shanna asked me to pay for it, and I refused. She cried and said the dress was important, and she just wanted to feel special and beautiful. I told her to take it up with a fiancé, but she said he would just tell her to bug off. She was really distraught and said since it was my wedding, so it is my responsibility, and that I should have done something when she was humiliated. As of right now, I am refusing to pay. Not an a-hole for not paying for the dress. It was at your wedding is stupid logic. You didn't spill the wine. However, kinda you're the a-hole for sitting them together. It's not exactly shocking that something like this happened. You put 4 people with a lot of history and anger together at a table. Why did you think this was a good idea? Probably figured they could all be adults and ignore each other for their adult kid. I wonder if they were trying to avoid a who got the better table argument. Not an a-hole for refusing to pay for the dress. But yeah, you messed up big time sitting them together. I can't even begin to understand why you would have done that, unless you were hoping for drama. My husband was trying to avoid drama with his dad. Father-in-law demanded to sit with her. I don't think you were responsible for paying for the dress, but you have to see that sitting them together was giving in to father-in-law's desire for drama, not avoiding it. You do not sit divorced couples together at the wedding, unless they're incredibly amicable. Not the hall for the dress. But what in the world makes you hate your mother-in-law that much that you sit her next to a former friend who did that to her? Major, you're the a-hole for the sitting arrangement. I don't hate her. Father-in-law demanded to sit with her, and I wish I put my foot down.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my lottery winnings with my boyfriend's dog, even though I promised? Plus update. So I, 26 female, won a decent amount in the lottery, about $50,000. Before I won, my boyfriend, 29 male, and I would always joke about how, if I ever hit it big, I'd split it 3 ways, between me, him, and his dog Baxter. Baxter is a golden retriever, and I love him, but I always thought it was, just a joke. Well, fast forward to me actually winning, and my boyfriend is now dead serious about wanting me to give Baxter's share of the money. He insists I promised, and that Baxter deserves $10,000 in a dog trust fund for future vet bills, toys, and whatever he needs. I told him that's ridiculous. Baxter is a dog and doesn't need a trust fund. Now, my boyfriend is calling me selfish and saying I went back on my word. He says it's not about the dog, it's about me not keeping promises, and that it shows I don't take our relationship seriously. But seriously? Over a dog? Here's where it gets weird. I actually did buy Baxter a pretty fancy dog bed and some expensive treats with part of the winnings. But my boyfriend is saying that doesn't count because it wasn't part of the official $10,000 I supposedly promised. He even brought up going to a lawyer to set up the dog trust fund to make it official. I feel like I'm in a twilight zone. Am I the a-hole for not giving a literal dog a chunk of my lottery winnings, even though I might have jokingly promised? Or is this whole thing just absurd? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your mistake was telling your boyfriend that you'd won. Honestly, I thought sharing the good news would be a fun moment for us. But now it feels like I unleashed a whole can of worms. If I had kept it to myself, maybe I wouldn't be dealing with this wild situation. It makes me wonder if I can ever trust him with big news again. Have any of you ever had a weird experience like this one? Not the a-hole. How long have you been with this guy? This is so odd. It also just thinks of him being money-grabbing. Dave Ramsey always says money doesn't change people. It just highlights who they really are. And I think that's true. What will he be like in future? Huge red flag. We've been together for 2 years and honestly, I've never seen this side of him before. It's like the second I won, he flipped a switch. And now he's acting like I owe his dog this huge payout. I mean, it's not his money, so why is he acting like this is normal? And yeah, I can't help but wonder if he's already this weird about Baxter. What happens if we start talking about our future finances? Do I need to set up a rainy day fund for his goldfish too? I would not give anything to this a-hole after that stupid manipulation he tried to pull to get more money from you. Girl, tell him and his dog to pound sand. I beg of you. Right? It's wild to me that he thinks this is normal behavior. I never expected to be in a relationship where I'd have to defend myself against a dog trust fund. Honestly, I'm so angry right now and seriously thinking about breaking up with him. I love Baxter, but I didn't sign up to be a doggy bank. Yeah, money can do funny things to people. Keep all the money to yourself and dump this a-hat. Not the a-hole. For sure, I'm so disgusted. Might break up. Thought about this a while ago, but I think I'm going to make it a reality tomorrow or maybe today. Sad, but gotta focus on the better things in life. You realize he just wants to take 2/3 of your lottery winnings, right? No chance that money is staying for the dog long term. Now for the update. So after thinking it over, I finally confronted my boyfriend about this whole absurd situation with the dog trust fund. I told him straight up that while I love Baxter, giving $10,000 to a dog is beyond ridiculous. And I can't believe it's turned into such a major issue in our relationship. His reaction? He doubled down. He kept going on about how it's not about the money, even though it's clearly all about the money, and that this is really about trust, and me not keeping promises. He even said that if I can't keep this promise, again about a dog, how can he trust me to keep my word on bigger things? At that point, I just couldn't take it anymore. I told him that this whole situation has raised huge red flags, and after 2 years together, I can't believe he's acting like this. I told him flat out that we're ending our relationship because his priorities seem completely out of whack. If he's this unreasonable over something so absurd, I can't imagine dealing with more serious issues down the road. Instead of reflecting on what I said, he got defensive and accused me of breaking trust. I'm honestly floored by how this has spiraled, but I feel like this breakup was inevitable with how he's been acting. Am I the a-hole for ending a 2-year relationship over a dog trust fund, or is this as insane as it feels? Please tell me you didn't give him any of your winnings. No, I didn't give him any money. I love Baxter, but the whole idea of a dog trust fund is just too much for me. I think it's important to keep the focus on what this really says about our relationship, which is why I'm considering ending things. Just wanted to clarify since so many are asking. If he's prioritizing a dog trust fund over your relationship, that's a pretty massive red flag. Breaking up over this just shows you're not willing to waste time on someone whose values are so off. Trust your instincts. This isn't just about the dog, not the a-hole. This isn't about the dog at all. He isn't prioritizing a dog trust fund. He's prioritizing getting 2/3 of her winnings, because this is about money and control. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that he absolutely ruined the birth of our child? Hi everyone. Our daughter is now 8 weeks old. So obviously, this whole argument has gone on a very, very long time. We both have been holding grudges and neither of us think that we are wrong. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, my husband started in immediately telling me that I should have a home birth. I really do not know why he was so adamant on it, but he was. At first, I brushed him off and told him I would think about it, because I was only 6 weeks pregnant and the birth seemed so far off. Of course, it came quickly and my husband would literally speak over me at doctor's appointments when my doctor would ask if I had a birth plan. This caused a few arguments between us in those 39 weeks of pregnancy, but I never really changed my mind. Eventually, my husband's mother sat down and talked to me, and she told me all of the reasons why they did not want me to go to a hospital for the birth. I expressed my concerns about, safety of the baby and myself, but just like my husband, she brushed me off. I ended up telling my husband that I would take myself to the hospital when it was time, and that I did not want a home birth. He acted as if he didn't hear me. We met with a doula who was also very pushy. I felt overwhelmed and not supported at all. I was 36 weeks at that point. So when I went into labor, I was 39 weeks, I begged, absolutely begged my husband to take me to the hospital where my doctor is. He wouldn't. He spoke to me condescendingly and called a doula instead. I was in labor for about 3 days, active labor for around the last 22 hours. I cried whole time. I just felt something was wrong. I was scared and oftentimes they left me alone. The doula told me that if active pushing and labor reached 24 hours, I had to go into the hospital. I remember thinking that I could not decide which was worse, staying in labor for another 2 hours or having my baby right there. When she was finally out, I don't even remember wanting to hold her. I just remember crying out of relief. Obviously, I am okay now, but I did not have a good experience. In my first appointment after birth with my doctor, she was very shocked I had the baby. She was concerned. I was so upset. I told my husband that he absolutely ruined it for me. I truly never want to go through that again. I hear mothers say that they forget all the pain the second they have the baby, but I didn't. I love my daughter so much, but it was horrible, and it was entirely his fault. So I told him that, several times. He rolls his eyes every time and tells me how mothers are strong and how I am not trying to be strong. I told him that if we ever have another baby, which he wants, that I will never do a home birth ever again. His response is, we'll see. I cannot possibly be the a-hole here, can I? Everyone around me is acting like this is so normal, but it's not, is it? Info. Where are you? Where I am, the doctors would have told anyone speaking over the pregnant women to stop, and that their views actually mean very little. Southern US. I'm from Texas. I had a midwife birth. I know lots of midwives and home birthers. Your experience is not normal. A criminal act has been perpetrated against you. In my opinion, you and your child are still in mortal danger. This man and his family are a clear danger to you and your child. Call the police. Report everyone. Take the baby and leave. This right here, OP. This is outright abuse of you at a very vulnerable time for you. Not the a-hole, and do not have another child with this man. Please leave him now, before he raises your child this way and only his way. Your wishes will never be respected because this man and his mother do not respect you. Please, Hopi, put you and your daughter first. If this is true, take the baby and freaking run. Yep, not a good situation for her and the baby. Totally ignoring her wishes and what's best for her health. Also, this is just a start, especially when it comes to the baby. He and his family will think they know better than health professionals. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out after she stole my engagement ring? So I, 28 female, recently got engaged, and my fiance proposed with a family heirloom ring that means the world to me. My sister, 25 female, has always been a bit of a troublemaker, and she has a history of borrowing, stealing, my stuff without asking. I've confronted her about it before, but she always brushes it off. A few days ago, I noticed my ring was missing. I searched everywhere and eventually confronted my sister. She admitted she took it to try it on and lost track of it. I was furious because it's not just any ring, it's a piece of a family history. After a few hours of searching, she finally found it in her purse, but she'd scratched it pretty badly and didn't think it was a big deal. I was so upset that I told her she needed to leave my house and find somewhere else to stay for a while. My parents are now saying I overreacted and that I should forgive her since she's family. I feel justified in my anger, but I'm starting to wonder if I took it too far. Am I the a-hole for kicking her out? Now for the comments. Tell your parents that because she is family, you will not be reporting her for attempted theft, and they can provide her with a place to stay. They know she has a history of stealing. Protect herself by keeping you out of your home. You deserve a space where you can feel secured and respected. Standing firm on your boundaries is crucial, especially with family. Agreed. It is apparent that you value that ring, and even if you didn't, she shouldn't be taking anything from you or borrowing it. Not a-hole. LMAO, stealing an engagement ring from you sounds like a super good reason not to let her stay with you. In my opinion, your parents are weird for not treating that like a big deal. I would probably cut my sibling off for a while if they took something of value like that from me. Not to mention, if you'd lost that forever, it would have marred that engagement memory for all time. Like you would think about where that ring went for the rest of your life. That's unhinged that your blood is okay with putting you through that. Not a-hole. The parents' reaction explains why somebody in their 20s thinks it is okay to take other people's belongings. For real, hard to grasp the gravity of your actions when the first and foremost authority figures in your life are excusing your screw-ups. Who knows with this chick, but I feel sorry for anyone in this situation. It's not always easy to be a good person, especially when you see an easy way out by putting yourself first. Having little or no help navigating how to deal with those demons and how to value the people around you is a rough draw of the cards. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my son's wedding after discovering he's excluding his stepbrother from the guest list? I, 52 male, have 2 sons. Alex, 28 male, my biological son from my first marriage, and Jake, 26 male, my stepson from my wife's previous relationship. I married my current wife, 48 female, when the boys were teenagers. We blended our families the best we could, but Alex and Jake never really bonded. They were civil, but there was always tension, mostly from Alex, who felt like I was replacing him when I remarried. Over the years, I've tried to treat them equally. I paid for both of their college tuitions, helped them with their first cars, and supported them in their endeavors. I've always seen Jake as my own son, and my wife has done the same with Alex. We've done everything possible to blend our family, even though we knew the boys would never be best friends. Fast forward to now, Alex is engaged and planning a big wedding. He asked me months ago if I could contribute financially, and I happily agreed, setting aside a significant amount of money to cover most of the costs. We've been having regular planning meetings, and everything seemed to be going smoothly until last week when I noticed Jake's name was missing from the guest list. When I asked Alex about it, he shrugged and said, "I just don't want him there." I was shocked and asked for an explanation, but Alex wouldn't give me one. He simply said it was his wedding, and he didn't feel obligated to invite anyone he didn't want there. I told Alex that Jake is part of the family, and that not inviting him would create unnecessary drama. Alex was adamant, saying they were never close, and he didn't want to fake it on his big day. He said he'd rather have a smaller, more intimate event without any awkwardness, and I could either accept it or not. I told Alex that I wasn't comfortable funding a wedding where one of my sons was deliberately excluded without any clear reason. He got defensive and said it wasn't fair for me to hold the money over his head as a form of control. He accused me of never putting him first and always favoring Jake, which I found completely unfair, considering everything I've done for him. My wife is devastated. She feels like this is Alex's way of punishing us for marrying and blending our families. Jake, on the other hand, is trying to stay out of it, but I can tell he's hurt. He's acting like it doesn't bother him, but I know it does. He's never caused any problems and has always been respectful of Alex's space. Alex's fiancé called me and tried to mediate, saying that weddings are stressful and that Alex is just feeling overwhelmed. She begged me not to pull the funding, as they've already booked venues and vendors with the expectation of my support. She said she understood how I felt, but also reminded me that this was Alex's day, not a family reunion. Now Alex is barely speaking to me, and my extended family is split. Some think I'm justified for standing up for Jake, while others think I'm overstepping and should just let Alex have this day the way he wants it. I'm torn. I don't want to damage my relationship with Alex, but I also feel like this is a slap in the face to Jake and our entire family. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for the wedding if Alex insists on excluding his stepbrother? Is your wife being excluded as well? As important as this is sadly a relationship-ending decision by OP. This will be even worse if it pays for Jake's wedding. I think he shouldn't pay for either wedding, to be honest. What I find extremely interesting is that, in the post, Jake is painted as the good one and Alex as the problematic one somehow. Maybe it's not intended as that, but it says it came off. Of course not. Even if OP's wife is a good stepmom, OP's stepson had/has a father and gained another. OP's son still needed a dad who prioritizes him the way stepmom prioritized her own son. I'm divorced and remarried, and too often us parents forget our kids go through stress in a divorce. Only they have no say over how it's all handled. They don't fall in love with a new spouse and get excited about growing a family. They're just expected to be excited and go along with it. It sounds like there may be a history of OP not recognizing and respecting his son had feelings that differed from his own. So his son wants one day where it's about him. Sounds like stepmom was invited, just not stepbro. So perhaps stepbro was responsible for more of the not getting along than OP knows or wants to admit. Instead of asking or understanding that he gave an ultimatum, I wonder if stepbrother would invite OP's son, and if his wife would be okay with pulling contributions to her own son's wedding. Another thought, I'm wondering what Alex got out of his blended family. Jake got his college education paid for, his mother didn't bother apparently, and Alex got blamed for feeling pushed out. I was wondering the same. Alex had to share everything as a teenager onwards. What did he get in return? Jake, however, got a heck of a lot from OP. Especially as they met as teens, he didn't raise Jake from a baby. And no talk of Jake's father. Did OP overcompensate, which is why Alex always felt second best? Possibly.